Good morning and God bless you. We've already reached the end of July, going into August, and I pray that you guys have been having a good summer so far. So, as I've been reading and I went back to Genesis and now I'm in Exodus, I just wanted to share some things that touched me and I hope that it encourages you as well. So, Exodus chapter 1. These are the sons of Jacob who went with their father to Egypt, each with his family: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. Joseph was already down in Egypt. In all, Jacob had 70 direct descendants. In time, Joseph and each of his brothers died, ending that generation. But their descendants had many children and grandchildren. In fact, they multiplied so quickly that they soon filled the land. So the Israelites were growing very fast. Then a new king came to the throne of Egypt who knew nothing about Joseph or what he had done. He told his people, "These Israelites are becoming a threat to us because there are so many of them. We must find a way to put an end to this. If we don't, and if war breaks out, they will join our enemies and fight against us. Then they will escape from the country." So there was a new Pharaoh who had feared that the growing Israelites would overpower them. So the Egyptians made, verse 11, the Israelites their slaves and put brutal slave drivers over them, hoping to wear them down under heavy burdens. They forced them to build the cities of Pithom and Ramses as supply centers for the king. So the Egyptians made Israelite slaves and put unbearable tasks on them. But in verse 12 it says, "But the more the Egyptians oppressed them, the more quickly the Israelites multiplied. The Egyptians soon became alarmed and decided to make their slavery more bitter still." So the Israelites kept growing and multiplying, and yet the Egyptians put even harder tasks and burdens on them. They were ruthless with the Israelites, forcing them to make bricks and mortar and to work long hours in the fields. Then Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, gave this order to Hebrew midwives, Shiphrah and Puah. "When you help the Hebrew women give birth, kill all the boys as soon as they are born. Allow only the baby girls to live." But because the midwives feared God and refused to obey the king and allowed the boys to live too. Then the king called for the midwives. "Why have you done this?" he demanded. "Why have you allowed the boys to live?" So here we have Pharaoh ordered all baby boys to be killed. The midwives feared God, let the boys live. The midwives protected the Israelites from Pharaoh because then, verse 18, the king called for the midwives. "Why have you done this?" he demanded. "Why have you allowed the boys to live?" "Sir," they told him, "the Hebrew women are very strong. They have their babies so quickly that we cannot get there in time. They are not slow in giving birth like Egyptian women." So God blessed the midwives, and the Israelites continued multiplying, growing more and more powerful. And because the midwives feared God, he gave them families of their own. Then Pharaoh gave this order to all his people: "Throw all the newborn Israelite boys into the Nile River, but you spare the baby girls." We're not going to continue in that story. I just kind of want to focus on the Israelites, the midwives, and Pharaoh. So in the end, the midwives protected the Israelites from Pharaoh, and God blessed the midwives and gave them families of their own. And growing up, my grandmother always said, sometimes it's good to say a little lie because it's okay. It depends. Like the midwives had to say that to protect the people. So here, what do we learn from it, or what I learned from it for me today? People will be jealous and fear us when we prosper and grow, and when our churches prosper and grow, and when our families prosper and grow. People will notice and be jealous and fear, right? What happens? Trials and laws will come against us to make it harder to be a Christian and a light in the world today. And that's what's happening really all around the world. But number 3, in the midst of trials and tribulations, that is what makes us grow. That is what makes our faith stronger. So for us to make our faith, how we grow and how we get stronger is through some rough times sometimes. So Lord, help us through them. But then here we learn that the midwives feared God. Then they were God-fearing. There are God-fearing men and women in higher places in society, even in our city, that fear God. And God always has his purpose and his plan, even around us. Even when we think that there's no one, God does have people all around, in our workplace, in the hospitals, in the schools. He does. And these certain people will be like the midwives, will fear God, and will help the Christians. And then when the midwives feared God, God blessed them. and they had families of their own. What will happen is when these people stand up, if we are one of those people that work in society and schools and whatever and have to stand up, God will bless you for standing up for the right reason. And then the last thing I just wanted to leave us with, let's stand firm on God, on his word, on his faithfulness and his promises. So no matter what we're going through, no matter what we hear around us, no matter what's going on in our cities and in our churches, stand firm on the word of God, on what he says, and not on what's contrary to it. Obey what the word of God says, stand firm, and see what God will do, because he will make us prosper. He will bless us, because he always has, and he always will take care of his people, and he always will. So I pray that we remember that as we go into the month of August, and know that there are people around us in our city, in our government, in our circles, in our schools that are God-fearing and that are there for us as well. So pray for them. Pray for all of our doctors and our nurses and our teachers that are around us, even as kids go back to school in August, that there will be God-fearing men and women that will stand up for the rights and the values, Christian values that we have. So God bless you. Have a wonderful August. See you next month. Bye.